5 minutes.
Well, I thank the chair. I thank the witnesses. It's a good hearing. It's a good subject. My district does care strongly about net neutrality protections. When the FCC moved to repeal net neutrality, more than 8,000 of my constituents reached out to me to express their concerns. So I held a town hall meeting on net neutrality. I heard from a veteran, I heard from a librarian, I heard from students, and I heard from a small business owner about their concerns, what this would do to their interests. Mr. McDowell, thank you for your service as a commissioner, as a chairman. You were an FCC commissioner when the agency issued its first net neutrality enforcement action in 2008. Is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you. And you dissented from that action and issued a statement. Is
Correct.
that right? I'd like to, I have a copy of your statement. I'd like to submit that for the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. McDowell, I also have a copy of the dissent you filed when the FCC adopted the 2010 Open Internet Order. Can you confirm that you dissented?
Yes.
All right, I'd like to submit a copy of that for the record as well. Thank you.
Without objection.
And you sat down for an interview with the Wall Street Journal in 2017. Can you confirm that you sat for an interview on this subject in 2017?
I may have. I've had many interviews. I'm sorry to say I don't remember the specific one you're talking about, but for the sport of it, yes, let's say that.
But I have a copy of that, and I'd like to submit that for the record, without objection.
Without objection.
So while I appreciate your willingness to engage on the issue and your suggestion that perhaps some rules are appropriate, I have to wonder whether you're truly interested in any safeguards to protect the free and open internet. In 2008, you claimed that net neutrality issues may be better left to non-governmental internet governance groups. In 2010, you said that net neutrality would cause irreparable harm to broadband investors and consumers. In 2017, when talking about net neutrality, you said it's hype. My constituents don't think it's hype. And the broadband market is competitive as is. It seems like the only time you've agreed with the government actions on net neutrality was the FCC's 27 order repealing protections. Given your repeated opposition to net neutrality, it's hard for me to see that your critiques of our bill are anything more than a tactic meant to delay or halt efforts at giving Americans and my constituents critical online protections.
Can I address, is that a question?
Sure, no,
okay.
It's not a question, but you can respond for
real quick,
30 seconds.
in observance of your time. So in 2008, that was an attempt to enforce the principles as rules, and I objected on that basis that they were not rules. The appellate court agreed with me and struck it back and turned it back to the FCC. In 2010, I thought the FCC had overreached. You're right, I didn't think that rules are necessary because there are other laws already on the books that I talk about in my opening statement that gave us this wonderful internet ecosphere that we enjoy today. But I also thought the FCC overstepped its bounds and didn't explain itself well. And the appellate court largely agreed with me regarding the 2010 order. So in both of those cases, that's true. When it comes to today and having this sort of Damocles swing back and forth every 2 to 4 to 8 years, and we've learned that surprise elections do happen, so we don't know what's next. Can we get a bill through the House that would get 60 votes in the Senate? I think that's a big question for this committee today.
All right. Thank you for your response to that. Mr. Wood, what do you think about Mr. McDonald's critiques of past FCC efforts to give consumers open internet protections?
Well, he's obviously right that those attempts failed in court in 2010 and then 2014, but that was because those rules weren't grounded in Title II. So I think the Save the Net Act neatly solves that problem by permanently grounding the rules in the right part of the law and doesn't leave it prone to challenges from ISPs like Comcast and Verizon who went in and sued and had those rules knocked down. I also don't see the sort of Damocles that he's talking about because, as Mr. Green testified and as our research shows, investment has trended along just fine.
Well, I'm going to follow up on that a little bit. Would the proposed legislation give ISPs both large and small certainty in opening up investment?
I believe so, yes. I think that's what the record shows. They've continued to invest on the same path and trajectory that they did before 2015 during the Title II period and then since it's been repealed.
Do you have any estimates for how much investment might have been made?
Well, I mean, the last page of our written testimony has some current aggregate figures. It tends to be, on the aggregate, about $70 or $80 billion a year, but we think those figures are actually somewhat uninformative because we look at individual companies and we see that they're investing at about the same percentages they have been for the past decade or more.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll give you 4 seconds.
I thank the gentleman. Chair now recognizes